Welcome to Week 8 of the Bill Neese Coaches Show. I'm your host, Chip Hare. With us, of course, is Coach Neese. And Coach, last week was a huge win for the Indians, coming off that tough loss with Butler. And I guess the theme for this is what a week a difference makes between what had happened last week and this week. And the Indians go into Greenville and roll 48-14, in which a game was dominated from the beginning to the end, and maybe arguably our best game all season.
I think it might be. I know we played well at Toledo. I know we played well against Lima. But I think it was one of those games where we put everything together. I think offensively, defensively, special teams, I think everything worked well. We had a good plan going in. We simplified some things after the Vandalia game, and I think that allowed our players just to go out and play. And I think that's the key, that we eliminated a little bit of thinking, and we allowed them to go out and just be athletic and be themselves. And that's hopefully is going to carry us now for the next 3 games.
Not that we want to pinpoint or area that one, but the one area that stuck out to me as an improvement from Vandalia to Greenville was our offensive line, and boy, were they moving, and they were moving people pretty well.
Yeah, rightfully so. And you know, you got to also say something to the fact that, you know, Vandalia Butler is the lowest scoring defense in the league, and they had some talented people. I think Greenville also had some talented people, but I think, again, we simplified some things for the offensive line, and I think they were able to get out and just concentrate on keeping their backs flat, moving some people, and getting some extra yardage, and we were able to do that. I thought one of the nice things was our running backs blocked well for each other, and that was something that we had a little criticism for of the Vandalia game also, that we were missing some blocks on the back end, we were missing some blocks on the front end, and we're also missing some blocks on the outside. And when we came into our Monday meeting, the first thing on page 1, it had a Greenville sticker on it, and the next thing it said was blocking. And we talked for about 15 minutes on the importance of blocking, not just offensive linemen, but everybody. And I think everybody got the message.
Message sent, message received. No doubt in Greenville, which we talked about before last week in the show, we felt their quarterback was really going to be the key to containing him. We felt like he was the guy that keeps things moving, and we certainly contained him. Wasn't even a factor in the second half as he did not play. The Indians really, you talked about St. John's. We came out and had a great first half against Leo St. John's. A little lapse there in the third quarter. We came out in the second half with that same intensity that we carried out of the end of the first half.
We did, and I think that was important. That's another one of the things that we had talked about, and especially at halftime, that we need to make sure that we are scoring. You know, one of the things I told our offense is I said we've scored 18 touchdowns this year, 13 of which have come in the first half of games. We've only scored 5 touchdowns in the second half of games. There's been 2 games we've been shut out. And I said we've got to get that on the ball, and we've got to make sure that we are able to make some adjustments, get back on the field, and do what we're supposed to do. And I thought the offense picked up on that tempo real well.
One other thing we talked about was Greenville's a tough place to play. We played a team that was 3-3 going into the game. We were 3-3. It was really an important game, not just for overall record, but also division play, because now we're going to talk about it here in a little bit. The division play now is wide open once again.
Oh, definitely. It has wide. And Greenville is a very tough place to play. And Greenville, like I said, was an excellent football team. It was just one of those nights, and we've had it in those nights sometimes where nothing's gone our way, everything's gone somebody else's way, and that momentum gets you, and there's just no way you can get it back. And I thought we got going. I thought our defensive line played well. I thought we really, in both sides of the ball in the trenches, were able to handle things. And once that happens, then that turns it into a 7-on-7 game. And when it turns into a 7-on-7 game, I think in that situation we would have the advantage.
Greenville, just to review again, before we had played them, they had defeated Troy the week before at Troy. So we take care of Greenville, and if we want to look at scores and take care of look at standings, now we go to week 8, which before we get to week 8, Greenville or Troy then travels to Trotwood, and Troy defeats Trotwood at Trotwood. Trotwood at that time was 6-0, and a leader in the division, and also a leader in our region. They end up taking a loss. Troy takes them out. So now we go to Trotwood, and we have an opportunity to really continue to put ourselves in a position to win the league and to continue our persistence pursuing the playoffs.
Definitely. And I think, as you look at high school football, I mean, just imagine the things that go on. Imagine the 2-week stretch that Troy had alone, that they come out, they pretty much, relinquish a lead in the first half, get beat on their home field, by Greenville, so they're probably as down as they are. Come back the following week, go down to an away game at Trotwood, win. So those guys have experienced both ends of it, and that's one of the one of the key things about high school football in general is you've got to be able to try to manufacture some type of control over some thoughts and what people are doing and in your preparation. I mean, there's so many games that you think you're totally prepared, and you come out and it's like you haven't even practiced. In other games, you're not really that happy with how it went during the week, and you go out and your guys just play loose and play an excellent game. So yeah, if I could bottle that recipe, I could be making tons of money and getting it out on the internet. But it's just one of those things where it really shows that everything is on a week-to-week basis, and it's just 1 week at a time.
We look at the Indians going into Week 8 against Trotwood, and as you mentioned, it's high school football. It also speaks to our league. The GWalk,
oh, yeah.
and how tough our league is, because there are no nights off, and we don't want to pick on any other leagues or any around the state or even in the area, but we don't have the fortune to we can take a week off this week. Okay, we had Vandalia Butler. Okay, we had to lick our wounds and we had to roll right into Greenville. Okay, now we're high, we feel good, and we don't have time to feel good about that. We got to go right into Trotwood, which is one of the top teams in the state, and then it goes from there. So each week we have to get ourselves physically and mentally ready to go for what will be probably one of the big games of the year for us.
It is, and it's a simple fact that as this league was formed, you're looking at it, and even when you go down to the bottom, it used to be when we went down to the bottom, it was really the bottom. It was the true bottom. Now you go down to the bottom, and you go to a team like Fairborn, who only has one win, but Fairborn's got a great deal of athletes, and everybody that saw the game against Fairborn knows that it was a decently close game. So there are no games where you just walk in and say these people are just devoid of everything, and it goes throughout the entire season. And so this is going to be big. We've got 2 rival games finishing up back to back. We got Sydney and we got Troy, so we've got a big 3 weeks ahead of us.
It is certainly a marathon and not a race or a sprint. And in this race that we look at, the next 3 weeks is really an exciting time. When you're 4-3 and you're in the hunt for the playoffs, it gives you something to play for. Mm-hmm. And Trotwood, certainly coming off a loss, there's 2 ways to look at that. They could be, they could be jacked up, ready to play us, or they could be feeling a little bit down and really not sure how they're going to respond, because anytime you play Trotwood, you just don't know what to expect. Yeah,
I think, when we talk about, losses and wins and stuff like that, the expressions we lose is there's 2 ways you can go about this. You can either refocus, and a lot of times a loss causes you to relook at how you're doing things, to step back, re-examine everything, and find ways to get better. The other thing you can do is, the term we use, is you can kind of lose your religion, meaning that you all of a sudden you stop believing in some of the things that got you where you're at. You start to second guess everything you're doing, from the weight room to your play calling to those type of things. So you really don't know what all we can control is what we're going to do, and we know that we're going to come out with a good game plan. We're going to come out prepared, and we're going to come out ready to play good football.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Trotwood and what we can expect from again, one of the top teams in the state, and certainly the #1 team in our region, currently in Division III, Region 10. They have a running back that has been outstanding for them all year. Mm-hmm. He has been a little banged up the last couple of weeks and has not gotten as many reps, but yet they still have another good running back, as we talked about today. It's not like they just have one. They have a depth chart to them that's pretty solid.
Good offensive depth. Both running backs have played well. One's got 1,100 yards, one's got 700 yards. So yeah, between the both of them, they're almost having a full season, and it's only been the 7th game of the year for either one of them. They got the 2 running backs. They've got 2 guys that are willing to sacrifice themselves, playing fullback in front of them. They go out there as a lead blocker. Got offensive line that doesn't have a great deal of experience. Only 1 starter back from last year, but they do have a great deal of size. So we really think those guys can get out. They like to pull people. They like to lead the plays. They've got 3 outstanding receivers that they use quite a bit. The quarterback is throwing about 55% of his passes completed. He has almost 800 yards. So offensively, they've got a lot of weapons. They've got 3 very good receivers. They've got a couple running backs back there, and they've got a quarterback that kind of keep everything all together.
Should note that it is my error. They had lost to Centerville before, so this is their 2nd loss of the year. They're 5-2, but yet they play good teams. They're coming in obviously prepared, and will be ready to play for us because everybody seems to be prepared for the Indians when when we come in. But let's talk a little about their quarterback, because they had a change in quarterback. Their other quarterback had transferred to Wayne, so this will be a new quarterback that we'll see for the first time.
Yeah, and we've seen him a bunch on film, and he's a good, accurate thrower. Doesn't run the ball a whole lot, and when you got two tailbacks like that, you don't need your quarterback to run the ball a whole lot. So he's back there throwing the football, keeping everything in balance.
Let's move forward as we obviously this game has a lot of implications within the league. Vandalia went ahead and got a win over Sydney pretty convincingly. And we talked about the Trotwood-Troy game. So obviously this has a big implications for the league, but also for playoffs. And as we talked today, last week we were at 9. You look at the ratings this week, we were at 10. You got to be in the top 8 to get into the playoffs. Some people would said to me, well, if the Troy was such a big win and we didn't really get a lot of points. Again, keeping in mind it's a marathon, not a race. You get a lot of those points the next 3 weeks. That's when things can really start to pick up for us.
Yeah, and there's a lot of teams in our region also there's a real cluster right between 4 and 10, maybe 0.07, 08 difference between those teams, and each one of those teams could say that they would probably be 4th if just one of the teams that they had beat won a game. Our case, an example, like I told you today, if Urbana had won their game this weekend, it would have vaulted us up into 5th or 4th. So it's a very fine line. Also, we're unique in the fact that we've got a lot of teams in our region that are going to play one another and eliminate one another, just like us and Trotwood are going to play at some point. New Richmond and Goshen are going to play at some point. St. Mary's and Wapak are going to play. So we got a lot of things going on with people eliminating one another and stuff. So it's always interesting the last 3 weeks of the season.
Well, we try to make a point to talk about it in the show because A, we're in that hunt, but B, I think people see that. There's a lot of discussion of how does that work, and particularly as they realign the divisions, we went from 2 to 3. Some of those schools that were in 2 came on down with us. Obviously, we're seeing some new schools, so it's exciting time for Piqua football. It's exciting time of year for high school football, but it's week 8 right now. It's Piqua and Trotwood, and as we close the show out, Coach, what do we talk about in terms of to our team? I know you're. Obviously, we're one game at a time, but from their perspective, hey, we're going into Trotwood, which is not an easy place to play. What's the mindset?
Well, our mindset is we want to look at the situation where last year it just seemed like we were always chasing. We were always chasing, hoping somebody was going to lose, hoping somebody was going to do this. And this year now we've established one hurdle. We've got over that hurdle. We're 4 and 3. And we're looking at a situation where everything good is right in front of us. All we've got to do is we got no one to blame. We got no one that needs to help us. All we got to do is go help ourselves. And if we do that, then we're going to achieve all the goals that we need to achieve.
Certainly a nice position to be in, Coach.
Yes. It's a good time to be a Piqua football Indian right now.
Well, it's an exciting time, and I can tell you Friday night at Trotwood, the Indians will look forward to going down and playing in what will be the last divisional game that we will play them in. Now, they'll be in a different division next year, but certainly in a big game for league implications and potentially playoff.
Definitely.
Coach, we're going to talk about the Hill boys here a little bit. We will talk to them about their senior year, but talk a little bit about having what's it like. Brady's obviously torn his ACL, and he's been behind the scenes trying to be a big help behind and kind of like a Jack Smeezing and encouraging his players, and of course the other Mr. Hill, who's been a good offensive lineman for us, Cameron. Talk a little bit about them and what they've meant to this program.
They've been great kids. From the time they got here, they have worked their butts off trying to get better. Brady is a great example. When you look at Brady and Jack Smeezing, those are 2 all-league defensive linemen that we do not have this year. That would have given us. Right now our defensive line is probably one of the strengths of our team. And if we would have those 2 guys both, we would have depth. Unbelievable depth. But I think in both of those guys' cases, they have just come in and worked weight room, worked in a classroom. I was fortunate to have both of them in my history class, and they both do a great job in a classroom. And they're great kids. They're kids that when I see them, I go out of my way to talk to them, see how their day went, see what's moving. And the unique thing is both of them had dads that played football. I don't know if you know this, both their dads played football at Sydney.
No.
Yeah, and they were bookend tackles, big men. They were known as the Hill Dozers, and they moved, fortunately for us. You know, these guys relocated, not one of them, but both of them, and so we were fortunate to have 2 kids that we might be playing against, and we were fortunate that Hilldozers brought their people into Piqua, so we're very happy to have those 2 guys.
Well, we certainly appreciate their efforts that they've given, and we'll look forward to speaking both to Brady and Cameron Hill. Coach, thanks so much for your time, and we'll look forward to another great game in Trotwood.
Thank you.
This will wrap up the first half of the Bill Neese Coaches Show. We'll come back and talk to a couple hills where I think I'll be right in the middle of 2 big hills. Stay right there. Welcome to the second half of the Bill Neese Coaches Show. I am Chip Hare, your host, and with me I am in between a couple hills, literally. Here on my right, Brady Hill, and on my left, Cameron Hill. And guys, thanks for joining us here on week 8 of the Bill Neese Coaches Show.
It's good to be here.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the season so far. Cam, we're going to hold off on you. Brady, we're going to talk about you. Unfortunately for you, the season didn't really get off to the start that we were hoping for. We had an injury you had to deal with.
Yeah, I was playing basketball, and I had a knee injury, tore my ACL, had to get surgery, missed my senior year. Now my goal is to maybe dress for senior night, so it didn't go the way I planned, but I'm just trying to make positive out of everything.
Well, Brady, you have, unfortunately, you kind of started the trend that moved to Jack, and then we've been able to hold it off so far with keeping our guys healthy. Jack and I talked about this a few weeks ago when he was on the show. Talk a little bit about what that means psychologically, how hard that's been for you. Obviously, you've been very positive about it.
Yeah.
How is it on a day-to-day basis when you see, your brothers out there practicing?
Yeah.
And you see them on a Friday night playing, and you can feel like you can contribute.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
I'll tell you the truth, before Jack got hurt, I was thinking about, I can't do this, man. I can't go out there and just sit here and watch this every single day. But then Jack got hurt, and I went up to the stretcher where he was, and he said, "Don't leave me now, Brady." So I kind of knew I had to kind of stay, so I had to stay. And I'm not glad that Jack got hurt, but I'm glad I was put in a position to where I could help him, where I could show him what hey, this is what I've done to overcome my depression, to get over this. So I'm kind of glad I could be that light to Jack. I mean, Jack was a light to me. We both helped each other out. So it's definitely hard, but I'm glad I stayed with him. I'm glad that I stayed at practice, because now I'm getting a chance to dress. So still making positive. So.
Well, you've certainly been a positive impact on the team and doing a lot of things behind the scenes to help keep the program moving. And certainly we look forward to seeing you on senior night. Cameron, little different story for you. You've been active. We are coming off of a big win, of course, with Greenville, and getting ready for week 8 in Trotwood. What's this season been like for you personally?
It's been fun. I love the energy that the guys are bringing this year. We got sophomores and juniors that are just coming behind us seniors, trying to push for the playoffs. It's just been really fun.
What's it been like as a senior here? You always work towards your senior year, and we all have talked about on the show about the time that you have to put into it, not just during the season, but in the off season. Talk about the payoff for you. What's it like to be in Indian on a Friday night, either here at Alexander Stadium or even somewhere else playing for Piqua?
Oh, it's great. You go to the pep rallies, and all the kids are running up to you, just want your autographs, and it's just great. I really enjoyed my senior year this year.
It's worth all the time and energy, isn't it?
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about Friday night going into Greenville. Obviously, we went in there and really kind of took it right to them right from the get-go,
Yeah.
and was able to keep that momentum throughout the game. And arguably, it might have been our best game from beginning to end all year. How do we take that momentum going into Trotwood? And, of course, a Trotwood team that is obviously one of the top teams in the region and arguably in the state, and keeping that momentum going.
Well, we came into Greenville knowing that we're not going to have what happened last year, so the offensive line just got together. We proved ourselves Friday, so we need to keep that and just keep going. We got to play physical and know our assignments.
Trotwood, obviously, last year was a tough loss here at Alexander Stadium. Going back there, you talked about that mentality about, we didn't want that to happen, what happened last year at Greenville.
Yeah.
What was that situation? Is that with the same mindset going in Friday night against Trotwood?
Absolutely. We gotta keep the turnovers down. Like last year, we had 2 turnovers, and it was, well, next thing you know, in the first quarter, it's 20-0, and their offense wasn't even on the field. So we need to get our assignments down this week.
3 big games, 3 weeks to go, a lot of football to be played, and I know from your perspective, you're looking for great things to happen for the Indians.
Yep, great thing.
Brady, we're going to go right back to you. Let's talk a little bit about your future beyond football here. You're a senior, you're going to be graduating here in the spring, obviously. What's on the plans for you?
Well, right now I'm doing the teacher academy at the JVS, so if I do this, then I'll get 2 years free at Sinclair. So I was going to do Sinclair to be a teacher and then transfer to Wright State and be a teacher. And then I was hoping over the summer I got to preach and do all that stuff. I got to go around and preach in Tennessee, Michigan. I got to do all that stuff, and I really got to dedicate my life to the Lord and all that. So I was hoping to continue that and like hopefully to continue evangelizing and spread the good word that I've heard. So.
Good for you. You know, there's not a lot of young people that talk about those things, and if you don't mind, let's expand upon that a little bit, because obviously you've had some personal experiences that have touched your heart, and you've gone on and touched other lives of other people. There's a passion inside of you for that.
Yeah.
What's that been like for you to see how the lives that you've been able to impact in just a short period of time?
Yeah, I mean, when I first hurt my knee, senior year, that's what you live for. I mean, I just can't wait to be a senior, be a big bad senior, and go out there and just play my heart out my last year. And to tell you the truth, when it first happened, an anger grew up and started to build up in me. And I went to church one day, and it felt like a refreshing spirit just came into me. And I said, well, I'm just going to make the best out of this. And then I went up to a church camp. I ran. Something touched me and I ran. I was 3 weeks out of surgery. I wasn't supposed to be running yet, and I ran. I felt so good. And then, I preached at a camp, Harriman, Tennessee, Jellicoe, Tennessee. I preached by Lake Michigan, and when someone, after you get done preaching, and like a girl that comes up to you and says, or a guy comes up to you and says, your testimony, I'm exactly where you were. I'm depressed, and your testimony really helped me. That beats any Friday night. I don't really care how good a Friday night is when you can touch someone's life and you can just put a positive impact on them. There's nothing that beats that, in my opinion. There's just nothing.
Well, Brady, speaking from the heart, it's clear that that speaks to you, and you've had a lot of impact on a lot of positive people, and it sounds like you're going to continue to impact the lives of others, and we certainly wish you well in that. And I know that you'll, in the Teacher Academy, you'll have an opportunity to touch people inside, their hearts inside and outside the classroom. We certainly wish you well with that. And thank you for sharing your testimony a little bit with us. Thank you. Absolutely. Cameron, back to you. What is life after Piqua High School going to be like for you once we graduate?
I'm looking to attend Wright State in the fall. Don't really know my major yet, but I'm just looking to try to get my degree and make some money.
Well, it's interesting. There are a lot of young men, a lot of young ladies that have a pressure to feel like they need to pick that major before they graduate, because that's what you're supposed to do, when all actuality, statistics out there show that most people are undecided, and it's okay to be undecided. I think you don't really necessarily need to know your major until sometimes your sophomore, even your junior year, so when you start getting your course study. But I'm sure, Cameron, anything that you decide you're going to be successful in, is there anything that's kind of touched your heart or your brain as to what you might be interested in doing?
I don't really know. I'm pretty wide open for anything now.
You're a pretty smart guy, so you'll probably figure something out, right?
Yeah, I'll figure something.
Good. Cameron, thanks so much for joining us. We certainly wish you well here the rest of your senior year. And Brady, thank you for, again, joining us. And we certainly hope to get you out there on senior night. And guys, we have a great opportunity to finish the year, so let's finish strong.
Thank you.
All right. Guys, this will be the end of the Bill Neese's Coaches Show, Week 8. Reminder, Friday night, the Indians travel to Trotwood to take on the Rams, and what will be a big contest for the division and certainly for playoff implications. For Brady Hill and Cameron Hill, I'm your host, Chip Hare. We will see you next week for Week 9 of the Bill Neese's Coaches Show.